Hi everybody, this is Juliet Hollingsworth. This PowerPoint presentation is something that I did in person at the UK Hypnosis Convention 2024. It's a presentation on the hidden power of values in raising self-esteem and confidence. Baby steps throughout the entire presentation, but moving through how we can improve self-esteem and confidence through having values. I want to start with what is self-esteem? So self-esteem is your overall sense of self-worth. It's how much you value yourself, and it's independent of specific abilities or achievements. Someone with high self-esteem has a positive view of themselves with the belief that they deserve respect and kindness. Whereas confidence is a positive and realistic view of your abilities, and it stems from within, so there's no need for external validation. People with confidence have an openness to learning and growth. The key difference between confidence and self-esteem lies in where they're directed. So confidence is about the belief in your abilities to succeed in specific tasks, whereas self-esteem is how you feel about yourself as a person overall. Confidence is usually situational and linked to your ability to perform well in particular areas like work, sports, or social situations. For example, someone might feel confident in their job but lack confidence in social settings. Self-esteem, on the other hand, is more global and rooted in your core self-worth. So it reflects how much you value and accept yourself, independent of any specific abilities or achievements. A person with high self-esteem has a positive self-image and feels good about themselves, even when they make mistakes or face challenges. Confidence is about what you can do, whereas self-esteem is about who you are. So a lack of confidence shows up in what we call arrogance, and a low self-esteem shows up in what we call insecurity. Neither are particularly attractive or draw people towards us. Those with a lack of confidence have an inflated self-worth or demonstrate an inflated self-worth and superiority over others. They're reliant on external validation and resistant to feedback. They disregard contributions, which often leads to them alienating others. They're dependent on luck or external forces, which can lead to feelings of powerlessness and uncertainty, and they're likely to feel imposter syndrome. Those who have low self-esteem are more likely to question their ability and avoid new challenges due to a fear of failure or judgment. They focus on flaws and mistakes and engage in negative self-talk that diminishes their self-worth. And they rely on others' approval and more likely to suffer rejection sensitivity or sensitivity to criticism. And they have difficulty in asserting boundaries and needs and prioritise others to feel accepted. Now, the two are, of course, interconnected. Self-esteem and confidence influence each other. High self-esteem can make it easier to develop confidence, as you're more likely to try new things without fearing failure. And building confidence in specific areas reminds you of your capabilities and can improve self-esteem. There are 5 key characteristics of high self-esteem and confidence. So the first is an internal locus of control. Then there's authenticity, self-awareness, openness to growth, and values. For this presentation, we're going to leave behind internal locus of control. It is an important factor in self-esteem and confidence, but it's a whole separate presentation. Values work can help develop an internal locus of control by guiding decision-making and increasing self-trust, but I'm not going to reference it again here today. When people have clear values, they feel more confident in making choices aligned with what matters to them, which builds a sense of responsibility and accountability. Values also reduce the need for external validation as people prioritise their own principles, which strengthens their independence. Also leaving behind today an openness to growth, because when we have clients come to us, they're generally seeking support to grow. So I'm going to assume that the fact that they're seeking that growth, and actually, if you're listening to this as someone who wants to develop your own values, then you have that openness to growth. In this presentation, I want to focus on helping people grow confidence and self-esteem by using values and self-awareness to be their authentic selves. What is authenticity? In 2000, Michael Kernis and Goldman published a paper called A Multi-Component Conceptualization of Authenticity, Theory and Research. And in this paper, they separated authenticity into 4 brackets. The first being awareness. They believe awareness means knowing and accepting our motivations, emotions, and personal qualities, what we enjoy, what makes us anxious, our strengths and weaknesses, and our goals. It's about understanding that we are complex, with both contrasting traits like being both shy and outgoing at times. Being authentic involves recognizing and accepting these different parts of ourselves. This helps us feel more confident and flexible in different situations. Mindfulness and therapy techniques encourage us to explore parts of ourselves without judgment, which supports a more balanced and accepting sense of self. Unbiased processing was the second category. This involves viewing yourself objectively, accepting both positive and negative aspects without exaggeration or denial. It means not distorting or ignoring information about yourself to avoid uncomfortable feelings. And people with unbiased processing tend to make choices based on a realistic self-view, which benefits both short and long-term decisions. And research shows that those who process information about themselves openly and without self-deception tend to be more self-compassionate, accepting their flaws with kindness rather than harsh criticism. And this realistic self-view fosters healthier, more authentic psychological functioning. The third category is behaviour. And this is acting in line with your values and needs, rather than just trying to please others or avoid punishment. And this behaviour shows awareness of your true self and involves making conscious choices based on an honest understanding of who you are. Authentic actions stem from genuinely considering your inner values, while inauthentic actions ignore or distort these aspects. It's important to note that authenticity doesn't mean acting on every impulse, but expressing your real self naturally. When personal values clash with social expectations, authenticity may lead to some inner conflict, yet resolving this can strengthen your integrity. Authentic people are less likely to compare themselves to others or obsess over how they appear, as they rely on their inner values rather than external approval. And the last bracket is a relational orientation. So it's about being genuine, open, and honest in close relationships, allowing others to see the real you. And this relational authenticity fosters secure, mutually supportive connections, leading to healthier, more satisfying relationships. Research shows that people high in relational authenticity seek partners who validate their true selves, whilst those low in authenticity may engage in self-enhancement, leading to less genuine bonds. Authentic relationships involve balanced self-disclosure and mutual trust, which enhances well-being and strengthens one's sense of self. So what are the benefits of authenticity? One quote I read said, "Authenticity is a bedrock of well-being. The trait is correlated with self-esteem, purpose, vitality, and the ability to set and accomplish goals. It's also linked to coping skills that allow people to navigate life's challenges in healthy ways, rather than resorting to self-destructive habits such as drugs or alcohol. And it may act as a buffer against the negative effects of loneliness." So authenticity improves relationships. It fosters genuine connections. When people show up as their true selves, they attract others who value them for who they are, creating stronger, more meaningful relationships. I like to think people aren't attracted to people that are the same as them. They're attracted to people who show their true selves. Authenticity reduces stress and anxiety. So when you hide parts of yourself or pretend to be someone you're not, it can be mentally exhausting and cause stress. Authenticity frees up mental energy and reduces the anxiety associated with maintaining a facade, allowing you to feel more at ease. Authenticity gives you greater resilience. When you're authentic, you're more likely to base decisions on values that are genuinely important to you. This increases resilience as it's easier to find strength in your commitment to what you genuinely believe in. Authenticity enhances creativity and productivity. So when you feel free to express yourself authentically, you're more likely to tap into your unique talents and insights, which can lead to greater creativity, satisfaction, and productivity, both personally and professionally. Authenticity gives a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Living authentically helps you identify what truly matters to you, leading to a deeper sense of purpose. Pursuing activities, careers, and relationships aligned with your core self leads to a more fulfilling, meaningful life. And finally, authenticity improves your emotional intelligence. Authentic people often have a better understanding of their own emotions and motives, leading to greater emotional intelligence. This awareness helps you navigate complex social dynamics more effectively and empathize with the experiences of others. What does authenticity have to do with values? So Brené Brown, who's the queen of authenticity, says authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. She also says authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. What are values? Values are actions. They're the ways of living and being in this world that are important and meaningful to you. They're ongoing patterns of action. So the goal of exploring values in therapy is to help build a person's ability to contact and experience the patterns of living they might choose. We, as therapists, want them to help develop a sense of the lived pattern of behaviour most meaningful and vital to them. In other words, what they would do if they were living compassionately and committedly. Values are a compass. As guiding directions, they're always immediately available and inexhaustible. Values are what's most important, even when life gets tough. They're consciously chosen. Now, is there a difference between a value and a goal? So when you think of values as a compass, they're guiding you in a direction. So if you choose to go east, no matter where you are, it's always there. You don't need to go anywhere else or have anything be different to turn towards east. But at the same time, no matter how far east you go, you'll never get there. You'll never reach east. Providing you have a journey in front of you, there's always more east you can move towards. So this allows life to have purpose and meaning in the here and now, rather than always looking towards some future accomplishment or milestone to offer that meaning. So if the value is the direction, the goal is the milestone to reach, or things that can be accomplished or attained. So values establish the direction you want your life to head, and the goals can serve as markers to help you navigate and let you know whether you're still on course. We're recapping here. Why have values? Why should you have values? Why should your clients have values? So we want values to feel purpose, to reduce stress and anxiety, to improve self-doubt and low self-worth, and to achieve genuine connection. Altogether, by living in alignment with your values, you can feel empowered to take control of your life with confidence. Let's have a look at the key characteristics of values. So firstly, they're behaviours, not words. So for example, you may say you believe in being kind. And this is then demonstrated through acts such as helping others, listening compassionately. Or you may say I value animals, and then that's demonstrated by being vegetarian. Or perhaps I value integrity, and so you act honestly even when it's hard. Values are freely chosen, so they're not based on culture or societal expectation. As previously mentioned, values are the ongoing journey, not specific goals to achieve. And there's something to move towards rather than away from. And values are life's motivations. Now, in a moment, we're going to go through these 5 steps one by one. But values in practice. First of all, we want to identify what matters. Then we want to shift the focus. We want consistency. We want to acknowledge and accept the pain of presence, and then use values as motivation. Firstly, identifying what matters. These are some questions here that you might want to ask your clients, or if you're doing this for yourself, ask yourself. Identifying what really matters to you. What would your ideal life look like if you felt fully aligned with your values? What do you think you'd choose to make important if no one would ever know what you choose? What would it be for you if everything you did in the service of valuing something was done anonymously, so no one would ever know that you value that thing? These kind of questions will help you identify what matters to you, or they're questions to ask other people to help them identify what matters to them. Next, you need to shift your focus. So, moving the focus away from avoiding discomfort to pursuing what's important. Moving the focus from what you don't want to what you do want. So let's say someone struggles with social anxiety and often thinks, I don't want to feel nervous or make a fool of myself in social situations. This is their avoidance focus. They're fixated on trying to avoid discomfort or embarrassment. So we can then reframe that on what they do want. So instead of centering on the anxiety and what they don't want, they can clarify what they do want. For instance, they might reframe their focus to, I want to connect with others in a meaningful way and feel comfortable expressing myself. The value clarification. So identify the underlying values that support this positive focus. In this case, those might be connection, authenticity, and confidence. And these values are then used to guide actions and goals. So the original avoidance focus was, I don't want to be anxious in social situations. The reframed aspiration is, I value connection and want to engage with others genuinely. So instead of trying to avoid the feeling of nervousness, this person can now focus on small actions aligned with their values, such as making eye contact with one person and actively listening, asking open questions to show interest, and celebrating moments where they shared openly regardless of nervousness. The consistency in values refers to living in a way that consistently reflects the core beliefs. It means making decisions and taking actions that are in harmony with what we truly care about, even when it's challenging or inconvenient. Consistency creates a sense of integrity and self-respect because we're being true to ourselves and our principles, which fosters a deeper connection to our sense of purpose. It's really important with values to acknowledge and accept the pain of presence. A lovely quote here, which is, pain and suffering are neither antithetical to happiness nor simply incidental to it. They are necessary for happiness. So people don't climb Everest purely for the view. It wouldn't be the same if a helicopter deposited you on the summit to snap a selfie at the top of the world. Part of what people find so meaningful about that experience is the pain and struggle that's required of the journey. In contrast, the pain of absence is the pain you feel when you spend too much of your time caught up in experiential avoidance, living outside your values. Often this includes a sense of emptiness, meaningless, regret, or directionlessness. So a pain of presence is the loss you feel when you've opened your heart to a friend and they move away. It's the inevitable feelings of failure you experience when you try something that stretches you in new ways. Whereas the pain of presence is what happens when you choose to live your values. It's an inevitable part of living a life of meaning and purpose. And the pain of absence is a sense of meaningless. Perhaps a feeling of hopelessness when you give up on connecting with someone. So a theory to ponder is, what if our only real choice in life is between the pain of absence or the pain of presence, not whether we will experience pain. So like the struggle of climbing Everest, the pain of presence is the meaningful journey. The inevitable feelings of failure you experience when you try something that stretches you in new ways. The pain of presence is what happens when you choose to live your values. It's an inevitable part of living a life of meaning and purpose. The pain of absence is the emptiness of avoiding challenges and missing out on what matters. It's the sense of meaninglessness you feel when your life involves being on the hamster wheel of finding the next fix. It's the sense of disconnection from people you love when you closed your heart to them. It's the hopelessness found in giving up on ever really connecting with someone. What if it's true that your only real choice in life is between the pain of absence or the pain of presence, not whether you will experience pain? Having values is pivotal in motivation. So people often report feeling better, perhaps more proud, satisfied, or happy when they live a meaningful and important life. Living a valued life is the goal. So consider a situation where someone engages in an early morning exercise routine. They might not feel particularly positive in the moment, feeling tired, cold, or uncomfortable, but they persist with the routine. For example, at 5:30 in the morning while exercising their dog, the individual might not experience immediate joy or pleasure. Instead, they might only feel a sense of pride or contentment when they reflect on the meaningful action they're taking. So the primary motivation isn't the enjoyment of the activity itself, but the commitment to a value. In this case, the value is caring well for their companion, emphasizing a life aligned with their principles of responsibility and affection. So the exercise is not pursued for its inherent pleasure, but as a demonstration of living out a value, caring for those they're responsible for. And this highlights that values often guide actions, even when the actions themselves are not enjoyable. So far, this has all been very rose-tinted and idyllic, but of course there are barriers to values. It's not always as easy as it sounds. Here we have 4 barriers to values: self-stories, fixed understanding of limits, short-term alleviation of pain, and not understanding what you truly want. We're going to go on to look at these in more detail one by one. So a self-story is the personal narrative you create about yourself, often shaped by your experience, beliefs, values, and perceptions. It's how you interpret and communicate who you are, where you come from, and where you think you're headed. Self-stories inform how you see yourself in relation to the world. Self-stories can become barriers to values when they create fixed beliefs about who we are and limit our growth. If our personal narratives reinforce unhelpful or outdated views, they can prevent us from embracing values that align with our true goals and aspirations. You can overcome self-stories by asking questions such as, can you picture how things were for you before life taught you there wasn't anything worth caring about? If I were talking to you back then, what would that person say they care about? Think back to when you were younger and had more hope for what your life could be. What would that younger, more hopeful you say you longed for back then? If you look forward 10 years and imagine yourself living exactly as you are now, what do you think you might look back on and feel you missed out on? If you could take a different path, where would it lead? Short-term alleviation of pain is a big barrier to values. So we've explained the pain of absence versus the pain of presence. And there is pain in the moment sometimes when performing an activity that means you're living in alignment with your values. So dragging yourself out of the house on a cold, dark, rainy morning to go to the gym, for example, because you value your health. Or perhaps getting out of your pajamas and dressing to go to a support group. These things can be difficult. They can take effort, and it can be easier to just stay at home on the sofa, stay at home in bed. But this is the pain of presence. And if you're trying to alleviate that pain, explore it. Is this pain a guide to the thing you care about most? So perhaps you fear abandonment through falling in love. Or you're experiencing pain because you're missing a loved one that lives far away. Lean into the pain and check that you're not trying to alleviate it in the short term. Another barrier to values is not understanding what you truly want. So if you're a therapist trying to help somebody find their values, talk, explore. Ask that person whenever they felt the most hurt. Is this what they care about the most? If you're doing this for yourself, journal. Write, or go to a therapist and talk about yourself. Use visualization. So imagine a time when you felt the positivity that comes from living in alignment. Now, there's another exercise called the feared eulogy. And this is where you imagine yourself at your own funeral and someone's giving a eulogy, but it's not the rose-tinted speak all about the good things eulogy. It's speaking about how you actually behaved. And thinking about whether that's really the way you wanted to be behaving. So always remembering that values are behaviours and actions, not simply words. So you can seek the behaviour and action to get to the word if necessary. It may be that someone's actually behaving in a certain way that does align, but they haven't quite got the value. they're not understanding how the behavior links to a value. I want to give a brief example of a values process here. So I spoke to someone and I asked them to give me their values. Now, this was on the spot, and the person didn't have the opportunity to prepare anything beforehand or even have time to think about it. It was very much off the top of the head. But this person said that their value is success in my business, career, children, and marriage. So I asked this person to define success, and they responded a little bit of pushing the boundaries, achieving what people don't expect me to achieve, people knowing me, knowing what I've done. I questioned, how does that translate into success with children? And they said, creating great members of society who achieve what they set out to achieve. So I pushed further. What's a great member of society? Someone who is productive, they work and contribute to people and the planet. I asked, what does success in marriage mean to you? The response was being married until the day I die, a good, happy marriage. Now, we stopped talking about children because this person didn't have children and wasn't currently trying to conceive. But I challenged further by asking some questions. Who doesn't expect you to achieve? Now, this person grew up in a poor area with a single parent, and they said, the newspapers don't expect me to achieve. The newspaper expects me to be pregnant at a young age with no job. I asked for more information. And the opinion that others do not expect them to achieve was based on the statistics. I questioned, who's directly told you that they do not expect you to achieve? And they responded that no one has. Something that they've put on themselves. It's a self-story. I was then interested to know whether being married until the day I die comes above self-respect and happiness. What if the spouse starts behaving abusively, has an affair, or they simply decide they're better not together than they are together? Do the marriage vows take priority? They responded no. So from the original value of success, we determine that this person values career progression, working towards rather than away from. They value contributing to their field. They want to make a difference and for people to remember them. This is the motivation to get out of bed every morning and work hard, even though no one makes them do it. And they value their marriage. The client can align their daily behaviours with this. They can set goals. However, if their spouse chooses differently, it doesn't change their values or behaviours, but removes the rigidity of staying in the marriage forever, regardless of anything else which may cause a values conflict with future personal values. The key here is this person had the most interest in weight management and had a poor body image. And this was the biggest concern. But none of the values were related to this. And I think that's really key. When there's something we want to change in life, we have to make sure our values relate to it.